as we deal with yet another rainy weekend.
Yes, another.
Welcome, everybody, to the Homewrecker podcast. I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique. Monique.
Hi.
What's this, 11 weekends in a row we've
it's
had?
It's the 11th Saturday in a row we've had rain.
What's up with this?
In New Hampshire.
Yeah, what is this?
It's called weather modification.
Unacceptable. Unbelievable. No, it's a myth. That's a conspiracy theory. Come on now.
No, that's global warming.
Global what?
That's
a farce.
Exactly. That's my point.
That's a farce.
That's my point.
All right. So, what is new with you, my lady? How are you doing?
I am good, thank you.
Great.
Yes, I'm glad I didn't start my garden yet because it got down to in the upper 30s the other night with this nor'easter that we had in New England or New Hampshire, I should say. And we have our chicks, our mama, Rowena, who was sitting on eggs after we got our new baby chicks. She hatched 2 healthy babies. So we got, I think, a total of 19 chickens now.
Flock's growing.
Yeah, it's good. Lots
growing.
of eggs. And as for hypnotherapy, I am offering group hypnosis sessions. I'm back doing that. I usually do it for a period of time, and then I'll take a little bit of a break. So I'm back to doing that. My next one I'm holding is for inner child. And this is always really fun. It can be healing if you want it to be. That group hypnotherapy session will be on Saturday, June 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested in joining, go to innerstandingshypnosis.com. Go to the tab for group hypnotherapy sessions, and you can click on the flyer that's on there and schedule yourself for that. It is something that, as I said, it can be healing if you want. The whole point, though, is to meet your inner child, have some fun. And if you enjoy that, you can always do a one-on-one with me. And I am now offering different types of packages so you get more bang for your buck with multiple sessions, trying to deal with different issues. So you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com, check all of that out. And if you're interested in Organite or a tarot reading, go to tarotbymonique.com. And you, Alex, how are you?
Before we get into anything with me, if people sign up for your email list too, don't you send out reminders and things like that in there as well?
Yes. If you sign up for my email list, you can get a discount on your first one-on-one session with me. And you get information not just about what I have upcoming and things that I offer, but I share a lot about what I've learned and what I've gone through because I put it in a way that hopefully other people can relate to. So it might help other people recognize something or not feel alone and want to, even if it's not with me, do something to improve their lives if they need it.
Excellent.
Yeah. And you, my darling.
Me. What about me? I don't know. I have nothing to talk about. Same with me. I work out. I try to keep myself healthy. Take care of our kids.
This is riveting radio.
Well, I never said I was exciting. I never claimed to be an exciting individual by any stretch. I am boring. My life is boring now, and it's okay.
I was going to say thanks. Because I'm a part of your life. Thanks.
No, I don't do anything exciting. I don't think anybody wants to hear about my daily routine.
Alrighty then.
I can get into it if you want. I wake up. Let's see. Every day I wake up.
There we go.
What was that? That was the office,
Never
right?
start a sentence with, I woke up. Obviously you woke up. You're here.
I woke up.
Suddenly, I was awake. That is an Office reference for those who don't know.
Yes. No, just working out a lot. And I take one day a week off from working out to give my body a little rest. And aside from that, just keeping the boys as busy as I can, teaching them whatever I can. And that is life. And it's wonderful. I cannot complain.
Lovely.
Yeah. Well, now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, our new recurring segment that we're doing. Ask Monique. So if you didn't listen last time, what we're doing now is I'm asking Monique a question that was also asked to Marilyn Voss-Sant, the woman with the highest recorded IQ in history. And I believe she's still alive. So I'm going to ask Monique the question that was also asked to the smartest woman alive. Monique's going to answer it, and then we're going to hear what Marilyn Vos Sant had to say, and we're going to compare the two. So, are you ready, my beautiful,
Sure.
smart, intelligent lady?
Thank you. Sometimes I don't feel that way when we do this. Like last time, the first time, I'm like,
You'll be fine.
okay.
All right, so this one. How do you tell the difference between a kook and an eccentric person?
Okay, think about this one.
Take your time.
Well, who's to say they're not one and the same? Isn't it all just about your perception of it?
Are you asking me, or is that your answer?
I guess that's my answer.
All right, then. Let's see what the smartest woman in the world had to say. When asked, how do you tell the difference between a kook and an eccentric person? Marilyn Vos Sant replies, from what I read in the newspapers, a person with money gets the title of eccentric for the same behavior that gets a person without money the title of crackpot. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
There you have it.
Great.
All right. What are we going to talk about this week, my lady?
Well, I don't go on Twitter often, but I was on really quickly. I try to limit my time. But I did see that there was a post about an article, and it was from CNN.
Oh, gosh.
I know.
Here we go.
But it headlined, New Report Reveals Struggles of Bottom 60% of U.S. Households in Achieving Basic Quality of Life. And somebody had retweeted it, and they're like, bottom 60%, that is the majority of people.
That's more than half. Hello.
And so I didn't get into it. I didn't read the article. I was just like, that's interesting. And then I mentioned it to you, and I'm like, I want to look more into this. So I found the article. CNN did republish the article, but I found it on hgbr.org. And basically, the article goes on to say that according to the Ludwig Institute for Shared Economic Prosperity, also known as LISEP, 60% of American households are struggling to make ends meet, unable to afford what the Institute terms as a minimum quality of life. The report also states that these households are earning an average of $38,000 a year, and they would need to nearly double their income to $67,000 to be able to afford the essentials tracked by the Institute's Minimal Quality of Life Index. So, of course, I'm like, well, what's the Minimal Quality of Life Index?
This I want to hear. I want to hear what. Before we get into it, I remember this would have been probably about 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I was at work, and it was like in between jobs and stuff. And I used to work for a telecommunications company. I was a technician. So I had my own vehicle, and I'd drive around. And I'd meet with other guys in between jobs, and we'd just find a parking lot, sit and talk, shoot the breeze or whatever until we had to go to our next appointment. And I'm talking with this kid, and I call him a kid. He was a couple years younger than I was at the time. I was a kid too, geez. And so we're talking, and he was saying, do you remember when we were growing up, how you could go out, like, it seemed like almost every weekend you'd go to the movies or something, or always go out to eat with your parents and stuff. He's like, because at the time,
usually once a week.
Yeah, because at the time when I was having this conversation with him, he had just gotten married and was expecting his first child, and I was already married to you, thankfully. And so we were just talking about it, and because I had never really given it any thought, and then he's bringing up all these things, and he's like, everything's so expensive. He's like, we do okay with what we're doing. Like, we're not like rich or anything, but he's like, I'd say we're middle class right now, right? And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess, but my wife and I both work, and yeah, I mean, I guess we're middle, but we'd be like considered like just middle class, not upper, not lower, just middle class. And even then I was like, we don't go out all that often at all. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, now we have a kid on the way. It's like, and all the expenses that are going to come with that. He's like, it's just kind of crazy. So that's when he and I, this gentleman and I both decided we were going to take college courses to try to advance in our career so we could both make more money. And yeah, it's just funny because we were having that conversation all those years ago, now almost 15 years ago, and how we were both realizing then, like, wow, what happened? Why did everything get so expensive all of a sudden? And that was 15 years ago. Now, forget about it. Forget about it.
Yeah, and
It's insane.
I want to talk more to that because I looked at that index that they had.
Yeah.
And it said that the cost of living increased 8.6% from 2022 to 2023. And
that's insane.
Yes. There was a decrease in spending power by 3.6%. The minimal cost of living index includes expenses beyond survival, such as home and food, and healthcare and basic expenses like education, but also includes transportation, technology, clothing, raising a family, basic leisure, and more. And I want to point out the basic leisure to point out what you said. Growing up, we went out to eat usually like once a week. You know,
sometimes
we did something,
twice a week.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I take basic leisure as going to the movies, maybe going bowling, going to a restaurant. It's not like you're taking these grand trips. You're just doing something. But that's something that we used to be able to do, but so many people can't afford it anymore. So this index says that the annual cost for a family with 3 children, so a family of 5 like us, for 2023 is $130,672.
Is what they're saying the minimum income should be?
Yeah.
Wow.
Annually, based off of the expenses. And I just want to point out that I make less than $40,000 a year. So according to this, we're like 90 grand short a year.
I don't know why we're broadcasting that on our podcast, but okay.
I'm pointing out, like, okay, so we're in this bottom 60% because it's going to come in.
So we're in the
later.
Majority of the people in the country right now.
And I wanted to point out that the cost of food alone in this chart is listed as $19,401 for the couple with 3 kids. That breaks down to a little over $373 a week in groceries. And yeah, that pretty much aligns. We used to go food shopping every week, and then we went to every other week. We really have to stretch our dollars, and we're on a budget. I think a lot of people are. And the housing is listed for a year as $27,967, breaking that down to $2,330 a month. I know that I hear about some people and their rent is about that much. Just the rent alone, not including utilities, or their mortgage is that alone, not including taxes, utilities, anything like that. Things have gotten so expensive.
Sure.
The index also breaks down how much expenses have risen since 2001, Medical premiums have risen about 300%. Medical expenses have risen almost 200%. Eating out, rent, and household supplies have increased over 125%. Childcare has risen over 100%. However, TV subscriptions have decreased by 25%.
Okay, then. Yeah, you got to keep TV affordable. You got to keep people dumbed down.
Exactly. I wanted to point out, with all that stuff, we mentioned when we were younger, we used to go out and do these things. When you and I were both working, we were making what I considered, middle class. I remember when I was a kid, back in like the 80s and early 90s, growing up and hearing if you can make $100,000 a year, you're good.
You're set.
You're set.
Yeah.
And we were making about that at one point of time when we were both working full time. And we were comfortable, but we were never set. And then as the years went on, things just got more and more expensive. But I had realized something. It doesn't matter how much money you make, because the more money you make, the more stuff you buy. and the more stuff you need. And that was something that I had learned. Well, what happened? I got a raise. I was making more money. Oh, well, then, we got a shed. And then, oh, well, now we have more stuff to put in the shed. And yeah, we use it, but we were making do just fine without all that other stuff. It's like you get more stuff a lot of times. That's the thing that people fall into. So with that said, I had to teach myself how to live within means less than what I have. And we, for the most part, we did that, but we'd still, order from our favorite, like the one restaurant that delivered the pizza place that like actually had good food, because we stopped going to restaurants because the food wasn't good at a lot of the places.
I used to see a lot of the kitchens when I'd go into the kitchens for work and stuff. I would see how some of these places were, and we slowly eliminated places that we'd go to.
Oh, yes.
If I got into the kitchen, or if I talked to a coworker that had been in a kitchen and they told me it was gross, I'd be like, okay, won't eat there anymore. All right.
Yep, cross that off the list.
Yeah.
That helped. But I just remember still, even when we were making a good amount of money, thinking, I don't feel set. No. I don't feel like, I feel like we need to make twice as much to really be comfortable. And that was what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 10 years ago. And I know people look at, back in the 50s and 60s, how cheap things were. And they're like, oh, but inflation, it equates to this. But things were also so different back then. And when you look at what's happened, you used to be able to have one parent go to work and the other parent stay home. And those families could still take vacations. They owned a car. And now
families were a lot bigger too. You had people having 4, 5, 6, 7 kids. Yeah. Families were much bigger. Yeah. Sure.
And you look now, people have less kids. Some people don't have any kids. There are people who don't have kids who still struggle. And it blows my mind. And you think about how a lot of the jobs don't want to pay people. And I get it. We've had this, Alex and I have had this conversation before where, well, you can't pay people a lot because you have to make it affordable. But things are just not affordable.
No, they're not.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is. And there's a million different reasons why. And you could point to any one of them. But I feel like it's all by design for whatever end they are trying to achieve. It's bankrupting everybody. There's going to be no middle class in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, we're at the bottom 60% now. It's not, come on. It's to say that that's a conspiracy theory or that it's people being paranoid or whatever. It's like, okay, if you're saying that, then you're either part of the they that's trying to do this to the country, or you're just a complete moron who's asleep. You're a brainwashed idiot who just watches the news and gets gaslit by whatever they're telling you.
Mm-hmm. And
because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
That
and I want to point out too, like you can have a decent job making $20 an hour or $25 an hour, but that's still not enough.
No, I mean, speaking of wages, like I was reading recently that a lot of people in the engineering field,
mm-hmm.
people that go to school, get a degree, take out however much in loans, right? And then they apply for these engineering jobs that don't list the salary on any of these jobs. So these people will go through the process of getting hired, the interview process, whatever testing they have to do, anything like that. And then when it comes time for the salary, it's like 30% less than the industry standard for people coming into the business. And it's like, what the heck is that about? And so people are turning down the jobs because they're saying, well, that's not enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is now a lot of these companies, a lot of these firms that hire these people on, they're saying, well, we can't find people, so we're just going to have to hire foreign, and we get them cheaper. And that's what they're doing to artificially drive down the wages.
Yeah.
So that the company makes more money and they pay the employee less.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's not just in engineering. That's the article I read about this in. But I feel like that's everything. And people are saying nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to do this and that. Well, you're not paying anybody anything.
And that's the thing.
The system had been set up over the last however many years to make it so that you made more money if you just sat at home, collected unemployment,
Mm-hmm.
or were on food stamps or welfare. The state, they made people dependent on it. And people, you can't go out and get a job because you're not going to make enough money.
Yeah. And I just want to do
for a lot of people. I mean, that's part of the problem. Like, you're noticing, like, around in our area, for example, you notice a lot of pharmacies
Mm-hmm.
closing on weekends.
Yep.
Because they can't find people to work.
Yeah.
What is, like, what?
But not just that.
Like, that's insane to me.
But something else that has happened is, like, you're getting employees. It's kind of like you get what you pay for.
Sure.
But I know there's a pharmacy locally that my family was going to. And a lot of the people working the pharmacy, especially one person in particular, so rude. No patience, extremely rude. Almost like an entitled, like, listen, I'm the one in charge here, not you attitude. When somebody's there for help, you know, they need their prescription and they're being treated horribly. And I try to look at it like, how frustrated are they? Is it because they're overworked and underpaid? Or is it you get what you pay for? You're not paying these people a lot and you're going to get these people with attitude. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of both. But
no, it all starts everything. Again, this I believe this wholeheartedly that this is true. It's the destruction of the country. It's been going on for decades. We were being destroyed from within by whoever it is that is doing it. And it starts with the education,
Yeah.
and then if it goes from the education, that branches out into everything.
Yeah.
Just think about it, because the majority of children go to public school. They're not home educated. That trend has changed recently. However, it's going to be another generation or two before we notice the impact of that, in my opinion. We've noticed now the stuff that started happening when you and I were in school. We're getting the fruits of that little seed that was planted back then. The participation trophies, all that nonsense that started back when we were kids. We're seeing that now in that all these generations that have come after us, the entitlement, the brattiness of people, that's what's happened. And that has bled over into every industry that the generations that came after us who entered the workforce, that's what you got.
yeah, I just wanted to point out some math really quick. So the LICEP article is saying that you need at least like around $68,000 a year to live comfortably-ish, to meet basic minimum needs.
So for most people, that's getting 2 or 3 jobs.
Because if you have a job that makes $25 an hour and you work 40 hours a week, that only brings you to $52,000 a year. You're still not meeting that basic minimum according to them.
Right.
And based off the prices of groceries and everything, it makes sense. So I just wanted to point that out. Remember when making $25 an hour was a lot of money?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I got hired at that job I was talking about as a telecom agent, technician, I was making $13.50 to start. And I was like, whoa.
That's good money.
This is great. $13.50.
Yeah.
Now, by the time I ended my career there, I was making over $30 an hour. And it was like, by that point, it had been almost 15 years and prices had just increased so much that I was like, geez, I'm making this and I still feel like it's not enough. And I mean, obviously by that point we'd had 3 kids and a mortgage and all that stuff, but still it's like, you have to be making so much money now. It's insane. That's why we started to trend about 5-6 years ago towards trying to become as self-sufficient as possible, getting chickens, trying to grow our own food, things like that because I could see where stuff was trending. This is not sustainable. I don't care who you are. It's just not sustainable. And with the advent now and the rise of AI, all these people that went out and got coding jobs when
Mhm.
that's what the government said to do because that's what was needed. Well, guess what? You coded yourselves out of work.
Yeah.
You coded the AI that's replacing you now. That's what happened.
And that makes me
It's
think,
insane.
one thing that I saw is a lot of younger people are trying to be more self-sufficient because they're realizing that the rat race, the hamster wheel that society is in with work, you're busting your butt to make money so you can pay off an overly expensive home with barely any property.
Think about that too. Just real quick, I just want to say this. A house. What's a house? It's concrete, it's stone, brick, wood, right? That's about, think about the amount of material that's required to build your house.
Mm-hmm. Basic,
It's
just the house.
Just the house itself. It's probably about, I don't know, $20,000 of materials. If that. Yet you're spending how many hundreds of thousands of dollars for a house? What is that? Just think about it. I mean, just that alone. It's like probably less than 20 grand to get the raw materials to build a house. But for some reason, you're spending now upwards of, I think $250,000 gets you like a tiny, maybe 1-2 bedroom house.
They should be teaching everyone how to build their own houses.
It's ridiculous. It's absolute insanity. What happened? What the hell happened?
I know.
It's crazy. But going back to your point, I just wanted to point that out.
But think about it. So let's say you get married and you want to have kids. So you and your wife, or your wife and your husband, you and your spouse, you're both working. So you buy that house. And then you have kids, and then what? Oh, well, you're working, so you need childcare. Oh, well, let's say that's an extra like $1,200 to $1,500 a month. So now it's
and that's okay. So you have
that's
that
what
expense.
you take home.
So you have that expense, but think about this too. You're also trusting that wherever you're placing your children, they're actually being cared for.
Yeah.
How many horror stories are there about kids being mistreated, abused, neglected, you name it, at these daycare places because the people are not either properly staffed or the people are not trained or they just take whoever. Like they don't even do background checks to see who they're hiring. And you're trusting a complete total stranger with your children.
And there are some places that are awesome, and those people don't get paid enough.
No, of course not.
But that's the thing. A lot of these childcare providers don't get paid enough for the work they have to do. It's not enough. And so I think a lot of people are realizing like, oh, half my paycheck is now going to go to childcare. So probably have to get another job now. One of us will have to get another job. Yeah, and it's like, no, just stay home and figure,
It's almost like that's the logical next step. And I think that as we're seeing now you're saying a lot of the younger people are realizing and they're trying to become more self-sufficient. We're starting to trend that way. Mm-hmm. I hope that it continues that way because that traditional way of raising a family, I feel like it needs to come back. And I'm hoping that it does, just out of necessity for the next couple generations coming up. Because what you're saying, you're putting your kids in childcare so that both parents can go work. It's like you don't even see your kids. You're entrusting them to be raised by strangers. And then when they're old enough to not have to pay for childcare, they got to go to public school. So you're entrusting them. They're not being educated. They're being indoctrinated. That's not even an argument anymore. If you're going to argue with me about that, then I'm not going to waste my time.
I don't know why you're listening to the show.
Yeah, exactly. It's an indoctrination center. No, they don't teach you or educate you anything. And then you're probably paying for after school programs. If your kids want to be in extracurricular sports or activities, you have to pay for that kind of stuff. So it's like the expenses don't go down at all just because they're not in a daycare anymore. Mm-hmm. And you're not seeing your children. They're being raised by somebody else. So I feel like it needs to trend back to where the kids get raised by at least one of the parents. And just for a basic good foundation to society again. I feel like it's got to go back that way because it went the other way so bad. And look at I don't even want to talk about half the ridiculousness in the world today. But because it's insane.
I've personally seen parents who don't want to parent They expect other people. They expect the schools to parent their kids. They expect the police to parent their kids. They don't
But
want...
again, that goes back to the entitlement
Mhm.
thing. That's what it comes back down to. I think you can trace a lot of it back to that kind of thing. The participation trophy, everybody's equal, this and that. No, it's not. It's never been that way. And the fact that that was put upon society for, again, obviously it was for nefarious means, because look at the results. It was not a good result doing that stuff. I think it all comes back to that stuff. It all goes back to that. These generations now that we've had, where you have the majority of people that feel entitled, they feel like they shouldn't have to work, they shouldn't have to do anything, they shouldn't have to earn anything. Because why should I? I shouldn't have to. Why should I? It's easier to be a victim.
That is true. And again, so you have the people who are waking up and saying, this system is rigged against us. We
Always
need to
has
change.
been.
Always has been. How many episodes have we
Always
done?
has
The
been.
system is rigged against you. It's an episode. Go way back years ago to that episode. Take a listen to that. It's the system really is rigged against you.
Yeah.
But they're realizing this. So they're trying to find ways to make changes. They're trying to say, okay, well, you know, one person can live from home. One person can work from home, stay home with the kids, bring in some money. The other spouse will go to work somewhere, but they're trying to grow their own food. They're getting chickens for eggs or for eggs and meat. They're trying to find a way where they don't have to be as dependent upon outside resources. And I think that's great, but I think it also shows how much, you know, people work so hard. Do you know the average vacation amount in the US is 2 weeks at jobs?
Yeah, that
You
sounds
get
about right.
2 weeks of vacation out of a year. That's not very long.
No, but and I remember like when I was at that job that I've already mentioned several times today. They start you at 2 weeks a year, and then after you'd been there a certain amount of time, you'd get an additional week, and then after you'd been there, I think it was 5 years, you get an additional week, so you get 3 weeks a year. And then after you were there for 10 years, you get your 4th week. So I ended up I got to the point where I had 4 weeks off a year. And so I would just try to figure out a way to either get 1 or 2 weeks off at a time, or use the vacation days to have like long weekends.
Yeah.
That's what I ended up doing, because there were so many guys in my particular job that had the 3 to 4 weeks because they'd been there for so long, that it was impossible to give people the vacation time that they wanted, because you'd have too many people off at the same time. So places run into that problem as well.
Yeah.
with staffing. But yeah, 2 weeks is nothing.
That's
It's
not
nothing,
a long time.
But
Like, I remember one place I worked, it was like 2 weeks vacation. After you were there for 5 years, you could go up to 3. And you got 3 days of sick time.
yeah, that I had the same
3
thing.
days of sick time. Now, this was years ago, but like
Yeah.
3 days. So if you're sick and you got a really bad flu or something and you're knocked out for the week, well, you got 3 days. But a lot of places now, too, like, you can't use sick time unless you're actually sick. And it's like, it's just time. Everything should just be paid time off. And in America, you have to ask permission at most places for vacation. So I want to take time off. Is that okay? And then they'll see if it works or not. And I get why that is the way it is, because if somebody else asks for vacation, they might not be able to accommodate. But at the same time, it's like, that's your time. You should be able to use it whenever you want. And the sad reality is more and more Americans are not taking vacation.
Not only that, but people now are taking their work home with them,
Yeah.
and they're working when they're off the clock, just as a way to stay on top of their work. I mean, and they're getting they're answering work emails, work text messages, all kinds of things. I remember like that used to happen to me all the time. And I would just, after a while, I just said, nope, you know what? I'm shutting my phone off at the end of my shift, like power it off, not look at it until I power it on. I would power it on 5 minutes before my shift would start the next morning, and that's it. And I wouldn't even look at anything until my shift actually started, is when I would open a work email or something. And I remember I actually was spoken to about that by my supervisor, because I ended up missing a meeting because I wasn't looking at my work emails. It's like, well, you sent the email at 7:00 at night. I was already off. I ended my shift at 4:00. How was I supposed to know? well, you should be checking your email. Well, then you
No,
should be paying
they
me.
have to pay you.
And that's what I said to him. Well, then you should be paying me if I'm at home checking my email, because I'm not doing work stuff when I'm at home. And he had nothing. He couldn't respond to it.
And that's something else.
What are you going to say?
Yeah.
Because that's what has to happen. I'm sorry. If you're at home, you shouldn't be doing anything work related unless you're being paid for it.
So I used to manage a veterinary specialty hospital, and I learned a lot about the labor laws. And you cannot ask an employee to work on their time off unless you're going to pay them for it. So a lot of
now to be fair,
depending on your position, if you're like
not only that, but also depending on your state
and contracts, things like that.
Yes, so it's different. So what you're saying is related to where we were living and where you were working at the time and those local laws.
Yes.
Carry on.
But my point is, a lot of companies will try to get you to always be checking your email, take the work home with you. But when we were kids growing up, once you left work for the day, you were done work. Work didn't email you.
Yeah, because there was no
work didn't call
exactly.
you because there were no cell phones.
Exactly.
You weren't available 24/7. If you were out of the house, there was no way they could reach you. And now everyone is so accessible, and that causes more stress. So people are overworked, they're underpaid, they're overstressed, they're not taking the vacation because often they feel like they can't. And now because they can't afford it, it's also come out that a lot of people are taking less vacations. The rates have dropped because people can't afford it.
The rates, what rates?
The rates of like people who travel for vacation, they go away. So if you look at summer vacations, like spring vacations, things like that.
Well, look at
the numbers have dropped.
What's one of the most popular vacation destinations for a family, let's say?
Disney.
And what has Disney done? Have their prices gone down?
Oh, gosh, no.
No, they've increased. It's insane. We were there. When was the last time we went to Disney? It was, 2014?
I think so.
Maybe. So
our middle child
over 10
was
years ago.
A baby.
Okay, so
yeah.
maybe it was 2015 then. 2014 or 2015, whenever it was. It was about 10 years ago. And it was insane what the prices were. And I was getting a discount.
No, that was Universal. You were getting the discount.
Okay, Universal, we were getting a discount, but still, just the parking alone. I remember back then was like it's like $100 for a day. Back then, I don't even know what it is now. I can't even imagine. But even that destination has been just ridiculously priced, and it's just crazy to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. You're paying for a ticket, and you have to pay for parking. What?
You gotta wait in line for a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Jeez and crow. And if you like Disney, that's great. That's wonderful. I don't know how anybody could even afford to go there anymore. It's insane.
I just on my phone really quick looked up like Walt Disney World tickets.
Okay.
And so they have like different things, but for a theme park ticket, $119 a day.
That's it? I thought it was more than that. Okay.
Well, I'm clicking on it because that includes the Magic Kingdom and Epcot, and I'm just trying to find out. I think Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Okay, so that's 3 different parks that you can go to?
Yeah,
3 different parts of the
park. They have different ones, but
okay.
Yes, and Hollywood Studios. So that is for one person.
So that's for a person. So
that's for one person.
One day.
For
one day, right? Okay, so that's one day. So you times that by, say you got a family of 4. You're looking at about almost $500 for 4 people.
Yeah.
So if we were to go, it'd be almost $600.
Yeah.
Because we have 5 people. Then that's not including a drink or 10 that you're going to get while you're there because you can spend the day there.
Just one day.
And those drinks there, I think like a bottle of water when we were there was like $4 or $5. I can't even imagine what it is now. And you're going to want to eat. So you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 meals while you're there for a family of 4 or 5. You're looking at drinks, snacks, desserts, whatever that you see around the park while you're there. And then you're waiting in line, right? So if you don't want to wait in line, isn't there like an express ticket or something you can buy?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, if you were like, I'm not waiting in line, and I heard those, they started jacking the price up
Yeah,
on those
those are
because
really
everybody was
expensive.
buying those too.
Yeah.
So if you had like an express ticket, you were still waiting like 30 to 40 minutes to get on a ride. It's like, what? So yeah.
But that's for you and your whole family now.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're looking at, like, for someone like us, like, it's like a month's salary just to go on vacation.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And that's not counting the flight down there,
Nope.
hotel
Those are
that you have to
expensive.
pay for, a rental car if you're not staying like right next to Disney or inside Disney, because don't they have hotels like right there on the premises
do.
or something? So if you're trying to save a little money, stay outside of it, you know, it's like, it's insane. It's very, very expensive to do anything. And I mean, that's bled over into everything now, like tickets for things, for events, baseball games, football games, basketball games, concerts, pro wrestling.
Yeah.
It's insane, the ticket prices if you want to go see anything live. So especially if you want to go with a family member, forget about it. The WWE came to Manchester, New Hampshire last year. It was right before WrestleMania, and I think we talked about it on a show that we did here. And I went with our middle child and my brother and my nephew. And my brother actually just managed to he got free tickets from his work, and he had a nice suite and everything. So it was great. But ticket prices for the event, and this was a non-televised live event. It's a house show, but they call them a live event. They were like over $100 then. Now they don't even do those anymore, and they just do their TV shows, their television events, and their pay-per-views, premium live events they call them now. And those tickets are ridiculous. Like they have SummerSlam coming up in August of this year. I think it's like $40,000 for one ringside seat. $40,000.
But even if you want a cheap seat, it's like almost $100 for one person
to sit up in the bleachers. Yeah, so it's like,
or obstructive view.
Yeah, so these are like these events used to be populated by families, and I can just see that's going to start trending away from families now because people just aren't going to be able to afford it anymore.
And that's the really sad thing about this is so many people are struggling to make ends meet. Going food shopping, seeing people having to return groceries because they don't have enough money. I mean, and talking to friends who have seen that too. And to not be able to afford groceries, and it's not like they're going and buying all this crap. You know, they're trying to get just basic stuff, and they can't afford it. People can't afford food. They definitely can't afford any kind of leisure. And how does that affect people? Businesses start to close. More people lose jobs. So it's not a really good outcome if we keep going the way we're going.
We talked about this the other day when you first mentioned this to me. And I was saying how anywhere you look, they're saying we're trending towards a recession. I argue, that, like I said before, that's gaslighting. They're gaslighting you by telling you that. We've been in a recession for at least the last 3 to 4 years, if not before then. We've been in a recession. You just look around. It's obvious. But that's not what they tell you. They put out these manufactured, inflated numbers about job growth and this and that, and it's nonsense. That article alone, the bottom 60% of the people. That's the majority of people. I'm sorry. That's the majority. 60% last I checked is a majority. That's most. We're in a recession. We might even be in a depression. I saw an article that judging for inflation and different aspects of life that we have now, that, you know, taking into account things that we have now, that they didn't have back during the Great Depression era, we're actually in worse shape now than people back in the Great Depression were. So I'd argue maybe we're in a depression right now, but we're definitely in a recession, even though they're not going to tell you that we are.
But I think what makes it harder is you have so many people on social media that try to hide it.
Oh, of course.
it's like the wounded or sick animal defense, where you try to cover up anything that's wrong because you don't want other people to know you're weak, you're vulnerable, because you have a hard time affording things. Because mostly everyone has computers or laptops or tablets, cell phones, things like that.
But that's because it's necessary in today's environment, in today's society, today's economy. It's necessary.
That's why the LICEP had the technology, because you need that stuff. You need internet. And it's like, if you don't have that, then a lot of people, they can't work or they can't find a job. I mean, how many places with our oldest son, you know, teaching about applying for a job? Oh, well, you just go online now. You don't fill out an application here anymore.
Yeah.
Go online.
Had him go into local businesses to try to get an application, and they're like, "Oh, you just go on the website." What? Like, okay, that's how everything's done now. That's just how it is.
So I don't know what the answer is, but it's like something's got to change, because this is not quality of life where people can't even afford food. They can't afford basic leisure. They just work all the time. That is not what life is about. And then you had mentioned AI.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about AI, yes, it does have some good qualities, but I think so many people are becoming reliant on it. And remember, AI is programmed to like by people, and it learns based off of what people put out there. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's right or accurate with everything. And so I saw a TikTok video, somebody warning people, be careful buying books on Amazon. It could be written by AI. A family bought a mushroom foraging book on Amazon. And they went based off the book, and the book was wrong, and the family got really, really sick. Somebody did research into it and discovered that the author isn't really a person. They put out that book and I think one other book, but it was the same photo. It was the same information. There was no information about the person other than these two books. That's it. Whether it's somebody behind a mask putting this out, or I think it's really just AI taking information, and it's not even accurate. So you do have to worry.
Yes, what you're describing is this is a popular side hustle that has taken off in the past couple of years. All you have to do is put a couple of prompts into a Chat GPT or a Grok or whatever the other AI's clients are that are out there. You just put in a couple of prompts, and it will spit out a 125, 200-page book for you, and then you just send the file to Amazon KDP, the Kindle publishing, and it'll publish a book, and people will buy it, and you can get paid off that. And you didn't basically no work. You just fed a couple prompts into an AI. There are people doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you do have to be careful what you're buying. If you're looking for a reference book of any kind or anything, look at like stuff that came out 10 years ago plus, because anything like within the last few years, chances are it was written by an AI or an AI helped in some way. And that's sorry, but that stuff is just so faulty.
And then people are using AI to replace actual jobs. And how many people have complained about, like, I know I used to sell on Etsy, and they got rid of regular customer service. So it was really hard to get an actual person. Everything was through AI. And what the AI was doing was flagging accounts for violating whatever they had. So there was something, I forget what it was that they banned, but whatever it was could also be a description of a type of thing. So if you just had that type of thing, it wasn't you were selling that certain item. Like, let's say Switchblade. They don't allow switchblades to be sold on Etsy, but if you had like some kind of like switchblade style whatever, or switchblade or stiletto heel or whatever it is, just as a description of an item, not being the actual switchblade itself, oh, well, that's going to be taken down. And then to try to get an actual person to fight against it was very difficult. People complain about, even on social media, different things like, oh, well, AI flagged this, but it's not what it thinks it is. Why? Because it's AI. It's not an actual person who can look and figure it out.
Well, that's why
it's taking these jobs away.
Yeah, well, that's why things like on YouTube get flagged. It's an AI that flags it. It's not like they got people watching every video that gets uploaded to YouTube. That'd be impossible. It's an AI that flags it. It's an AI that flags copyright violations and things like that. And then guess what? When you go to try to fight it, you're not fighting it and having your email read by a person. It's an AI.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
We talked about that. One of our videos got flagged. And what it said, what they flagged us for wasn't even anything that was discussed. So
yeah, it's again, what are you going to do? That's the world we live in now.
But it's just an imperfect system. But I think when it's a system that's rigged against you.
It is. We're going to call this show "The System Is Rigged Against You" Part 2, or updated version
2.0. I don't know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Well,
I don't know what else to say. It sucks that so many people are struggling, even if they're trying to live within their means and they're stretching every dollar that they can, and they can't take vacations. They can't take their families out somewhere or out to eat. It stinks. And to me, that's not necessarily living life if you can't do it the way you want to enjoy it.
Okay. Well, I would argue that if you are somebody that is in the bottom 60%, as they're saying, it's probably more than that too, honestly. Mm-hmm. But if you are, and you have children, and you can't give them everything that you had when you were growing up, what you can give them is love.
Oh, yeah.
You can make them feel loved. You can make them feel special. You can make sure that they're happy. They don't need stuff or vacations to be happy and to know that they're loved. And I think that if more people did that and focused on that rather than, oh, we got to save money to go to Disney, or we got to save money to get this thing, or go to this place, or go to see this movie, or whatever, I think that we'll be okay, meaning people, if we focus more on that. Make sure your kids are loved, that they feel listened to, that they feel appreciated, that they are, that you're teaching them and loving them. That's all I can say. And if you're not able to home educate your kids, well, for the whatever small amount of time you do get with them, make it count. Even if you are tired from having worked your second job or whatever it is, take the time and be there and be present with your kids. If you're a parent, that's the only thing I can say, because I don't see this financial thing happening where it's going to get any better for anybody. This is only going to get worse until the system itself implodes or is completely dismantled and we get something else. And I'm sorry, but I'd rather have the devil I know than the devil I don't, because whatever the something else is that comes after whatever we're in right now is not going to be anything that I think will be conducive to a quality of life that I would want to be living.
And I feel like that's a whole other episode, because it's like, I feel like they're doing this on purpose to trick people into going another way.
Of course,
they're getting rid of the penny now. And it's like, because they want digital currency.
Digital currency is the way.
No, we don't want digital currency.
That's what they want.
We should go back to the gold standard, but they'll never do that.
Good luck with that. But that's what I mean when I say...
it's like they're trying to trick us all into thinking, oh, it's so bad, but it can be better. We can get universal health care and all these things, but everything comes at such a cost, and they don't tell you up front. So it's like, I feel like I don't know.
Well,
I have my own thoughts. I'm going to be careful what I say.
Remember what the goal is. We covered it on a show.
We have.
We covered it. I don't remember the episode, but we've talked about it before. The goal is by 2030, they want implantable chips in everybody. They want that digital currency. They want that digital ID. Everybody's got to have a real ID now. That's a new thing, the real ID, right? Just so you know, everybody, if they tell you that you have to get that and that's what you need and you have to have, that's actually not true. You can just get a passport. And you can do everything that you can do with a driver's license or a real ID. You can do everything, the same stuff with a passport. You can fly with a passport and all that. Even though they tell you can't, you actually can. I've looked into it. So that's where they're going. And that's how they soft introduce it to people. Well, you need a real ID now. Now you need this. Now you need that.
That's the thing. They're going to say
pretty soon it's going to be now you need a microchip implanted in your hand or in your head or whatever, wherever they're going to do it. But that's the plan. That's the goal. And that's something that's been in the works for decades. And it's coming. 2030 is right around the corner.
But that's the thing. It's like we have to stop. We have to do our own research and realize, no, I don't have to do that.
No, you don't.
Things might be a little more difficult for you, but you always have a choice. And they just don't want you to realize
Well, that's the thing. You always have a choice, and you don't ever have to comply with anything because there's nobody can make you do anything. They can make your life difficult. Hey, look what happened back in 2020, 2021. They made life difficult for a lot of people. They didn't want to go get a certain medical procedure done. And now those people that got that medical procedure done are all regretting it. They're all regretting it. And I'm not an I told you so kind of person, and I'll never celebrate the fact that I was right about something like that or that we were right about something like that. But nobody can make you do anything. No matter how bad your life may seem like it's going to get, well, at least you'll still be alive is the way I look at it.
And, the point of this episode, I saw the article and we just started talking. We're like, we need to record for this. So that's the thing. It's like, these are just our thoughts and we want to know what you think. Are you in that bottom 60% too? Do you struggle? How do you make it work? Maybe share. So like tell us and we can share with other listeners to maybe help out, give ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if you are in that 60%, or I say it's more than that, you're not alone. You're not alone. Everybody's struggling in their own way with their own things. But again, like I said, if just hang in there, because it's all a matter of perspective. Everything is all a matter of perspective. I told you, for me, every day is Groundhog Day, but I love it.
I mean, that's the thing.
I learned to love it, and I look back and I'm like, would I rather be doing what I used to do before I was injured and everything, or would I rather be doing that, or would I rather be having the life that I have right now with my kids, raising our own animals, getting our own food going? Would I rather it? Believe me, it's more fulfilling. It's a lot harder work. Yes, it can be frustrating at times. Yes, but it is so much more fulfilling and so much more rewarding. So it's all a matter of perspective and how you look at things.
And that's the thing for me. It's like, would I love to go on like a 2-week vacation to Fiji and get one of those little like huts on the water that's all private? Yeah, I would love something like that. But I made a choice. I want to be here with my family. I decided to, do things. So yeah, I'm not making as much money, but I have more time with my family. And in the end, that's more important than a vacation to Fiji.
I look at it like this: when eventually 70, 80 years from now, when I'm on my deathbed, 90 years maybe, I'm not going to look back and regret not having spent enough time with my family or my children.
Exactly.
That's not going to be a regret. And I know that that's like the number one regret of most people, that when they're passing away in hospice care and stuff like that, that's like the number one thing that people tell like caretakers and stuff like that. I wish I had more time with my family. I wish I spent more time with my family. That's not going to be my regret.
Exactly. And again, that's why we kind of chose the lifestyle we chose. Yes, we're not bringing in as much money, but
you sacrifice, but you learn to live with it.
Yeah, because so when I was working full time and then like I had a salary job and I was working more than full time, I was working so much. I felt like I wasn't seeing my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, my second child, I took a 2-week maternity leave before I went back to work.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
That's nothing. That's insane.
Granted, because I couldn't afford to take longer because I didn't have extra vacation time to use, but also because I had to get back to work. So much to do in that, mentality.
You get stuck in that mentality, sure.
I have to work. I mean, I remember, I think it was the day after I delivered my son and my boss called me on my cell phone to ask me questions about work. And I'm just thinking, I'm in the hospital. I just had a baby. And
yeah, well,
they're trying to get me to work. So
that's the way the culture shifted.
So that's why I wanted to make a lifestyle change. And yeah, like I said, can't go to Fiji, as things are right now, but I get so much time with my kids every day. So for me, it's worth it. And I just think that so many people are stuck in a position though, where they have to work. And even if they take away as much as they can, they still are in a position where they can't win. And I think that's what sucks.
Yeah. But again, it comes down to researching things and just figuring out different ways to do things and different ways to make it work.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Even though the system's rigged against you, and it obviously is, you can beat the system. You just have to get real creative. And you can beat the game. You can win at the game. One of the best ways is just not to play it and just figure out what can I do to survive outside of the system and getting outside of the system. And it can be done. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of giving up the conveniences that you're accustomed to and used to, but it can absolutely be done. And people are doing it every day. Hell, we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it can absolutely be done. So if you're out there struggling, you're not alone, but there are solutions. You just have to be willing to look into what those solutions are and be willing to sacrifice and know that there's not a quick fix to anything. There's going to be a hard adjustment period as you try to transition to a new way of living and a new lifestyle. But believe me, all that stuff, it's all worth it in the end.
And we're just sending you so much love and support. So if you feel like you need to make that change, you absolutely can.
All right. Well, on that note, I am the Golden Greek Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.
We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter
At Homewrecker Pod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com,
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker Podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_MoniqueGiselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, orgonite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, AlexArionFitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you. Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Inner Standings Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner light.